Hey everyone, my name is Kerry Magro and I'm autistic and I have dysgraphia, and I feature stories that celebrate neurodiversity within our community. I'm so excited that I'm here today with Christine Ferraro, who's the co-creator and head writer of Hero Elementary, a show that just started to air on PBS Kids this June. It's a multi-platform animated PBS Kids series, which is really great to have that online and digital element. And the show features kids that have superpowers, one in particular, very cool, being AJ Gadgets, who himself is on the autism spectrum. And you can learn more about the show at pbskids.org, Hero Elementary.
You know, I should say when we started out creating Hero Elementary, we didn't have the idea in our heads, let's create a character with autism. We didn't start, that's not where we started. We started with, we knew we had to make a show about science and superheroes, which are kind of two diametrically opposed things because one's fantasy and one's reality.
That's right.
But when we figured out kind of where they intersect is problem solving. Because scientists solve problems and superheroes solve problems. So that's where we landed with Hero. And then we started developing the characters and everything. And we were thinking about, they're living in this superhero world. Wouldn't it be great to have one of the kids be a superhero superfan? He just loves heroes. He knows great detail about every hero that was ever made ever. And in their world, because heroes are real, comic books are like history books to them. So we thought, yeah, that's great. Let's have this one kid who's a super fan and knows everything. And then as we're talking about it, I'm thinking, this is reminding me of my brother, who's on the autism spectrum, Asperger's, and he was also very attuned to it. Was science fiction was his thing. Mm-hmm. But it was reminding me of him, and I said, it just is starting to feel like that. And then Carolyn Parente, my co-creator, and I, talking this through, we started to feel like, yeah, this feels right for this. This really feels wonderful. So that's how AJ came about.
Just curious, what has been the biggest transition for you specifically when it comes to actually having Julia, who's a Muppet with autism, and going from a just live experience to an animated character on the autism spectrum? Was there a big transition that you had to do with creating each individual character? They're so different, just like people on the spectrum are so different, because Julia is minimally verbal and AJ is very verbal. And so it was, for me at least, it felt a little bit like expanding. It was like I was able to do more with AJ's character than we could do with Julia, just because in television, sometimes you need a character who can talk and carry conversation. Yeah. But what's also different about our approach with AJ is, with Julia, it was very overt. Julia has autism, and she likes that that. And for Julia, some things are hard, and it was very often other people speaking for Julia. And for AJ, we don't make it the focus, right? This is not a show about autism, and he's not a character who's all about autism. He's a well-rounded character who happens to have autism. And we felt very strongly that there was a powerful message in that as well, because we're not overt about it, because we don't say autism very often at all. We do down the line, there's going to be a more overt, double episode about it. But for the most part, he's just one of the kids in the mix. And we like that because we feel like it's just showing that, yeah, there are people with differences in this world. And he's one of them. But look what a valuable member of the team he is. Look how much he is appreciated for what he brings to the table. AJ, yes, he's got qualities that, listen, the people who are in the know will recognize them as having autistic qualities, right? He Absolutely.
claps his hands. He
he has sensitivities to noise when things are too loud. He wears noise canceling headphones. He doesn't like to touch things that are sticky or goopy. He doesn't like when his clothes get wet. There's lots of little details like that. So that some people, it might go right over their head, and then some people, they will recognize. Or some people might recognize that when they see it in somebody else and go, oh, I've seen that before. I've seen that with AJ before.
We look at representation even going into, obviously even today, when I go speak at school or go speak to educators, I still have people who are like, oh, I know about autism. I watched the movie Rain Man. And I'm thinking to myself, no, that's not the community that we live in. It's much more wide than that. It's not, even growing up as a kid, I was diagnosed with autism when I was 4, when the numbers of autism were 1 in every 1,000. Now they're 1 in 54. And everyone just assumed I would be great at math. Everyone assumed I would have a photogenic memory. And everyone assumed Las Vegas was in my future as at the blackjack tables. Everyone assumed exactly that. But now we're seeing
that. All I knew. Yeah. That's all that was represented out there. That for people who have never interacted with somebody with autism, that's their only frame of reference. And that's why it's important to show the diversity. That's why it's important to get it out there, especially for kids who are young.
Yes.
Teach them early.
Absolutely. When I wrote my first children's book, that was a big, big thing that I wanted to do, because we often say early intervention is the key in our community. If you can get people with autism the proper support at early age, it could have a lifelong benefit to them. But I also think that's important for neurotypical children as well, which is why I really appreciate Hero Elementary. A little bit about how you met the individual who was able to consult on the show.
So his name is Dennis Taylor, and he's an adult man with autism. And I met him through Spectrum Works, which is an advocacy program you're probably familiar with. And they also do job placement and a lot of other things. And I met him at a conference, and I was speaking about Sesame Street and my involvement in the creation of Julia, the autistic character on Sesame Street. And I was about to do my presentation. I was getting set up, and my computer was not syncing with the projection that they had, and it just wasn't working. And the flop sweat set in, and I knew I needed another computer. I said, where am I going to get another computer? And then all of a sudden, like out of the blue, there's Dennis standing there saying, I have a computer. And he saved me that day. And I keep saying he was my superhero that day. And then we began talking, and he loves animation, and he was creating his own series. And then so I talked with him about that. I invited him to my house, and we got to know each other better, and gave him advice about his show. So when Hero started, and we had this character of AJ, we knew we needed we wanted that authentic voice, and we wanted somebody in the know, and I thought immediately of Dennis. And interestingly, like over time as the character developed, it started to kind of take on more attributes of Dennis himself.
Something else that you would like for viewers at home to know about your incredible story, just getting to be involved with the autism community?
I've met so many people through Friendship House, which is where my brother was involved with Friendship House. I'm sure you know it, in Hackensack, New Jersey, and through Spectrum Works, and every single experience has been positive and wonderful. And I want people to know that differences are positive. It's a positive. That there are so many different kinds of people out there, and we can, now I'm quoting the Julia song, we can all be friends. But yeah, absolutely. And that's kind of the goal here in my work. Like, I want kids to realize that, yes, one kid may be acting differently than you expect in some way or another, but of course you can all be friends.
Awesome. Well, Christine, we're so blessed we've had the opportunity to talk to you for a few minutes today. Everyone at home, again, check out Hero Elementary. You can find it at pbskids.org/Hero Elementary, where you can check your local listings, but they also have some amazing videos and also games, which I was just checking out right before this interview at their website, pbskids.org/Hero Elementary.